All right, so again, I'm reading from Smoke Screens, and it's by Jack Chick. So we're gonna get some more content out there on the Pope's war crimes during World War II. So a 20th century Inquisition, the 20th century Inquisition, not a long time ago, right? You may say, well, that was a long time ago. It's not like that anymore. But has the Vatican really changed? Let's look at her actions during World War II. Many of you have not read our Crusaders book, The Godfathers, or the book The Secret History of the Jesuits, and therefore you don't really know what happened behind the scenes during World War II. So let me give you a brief picture of the conditions. The Jesuits had secretly prepared World War II, and Hitler's war machine was built and financed by the Vatican to conquer the world for Roman Catholicism. Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco were to be the defenders of the faith. They were set up to win and conquer the world and set up a millennium for the Pope. Behind the scenes, the Jesuits controlled the Gestapo. All this is fully documented in The Secret History of the Jesuits, published by Chick Publications. Read what the press of the Spanish dictator Franco published on the 3rd of May 1945, the day of Hitler's death. It said, Adolf Hitler, son of the Catholic Church, died while defending Christianity. It goes on to say, over his mortal remains stands his victorious moral figure with the palm of the martyr. God gives Hitler the laurels of victory. Hitler himself stated, I learned much from the order of the Jesuits. Until now, there has never been anything more grandiose on the earth than the hierarchical organization of the Catholic Church. I transferred much of this organization into my own party. That's important to understand too about the whole Episcopalian concept and the false entries they put and surreptitiously foisted into the King James Bible when they put office of the bishop, office of the deacon, and as we've shown in some of my studies, the analysis of the King James Bible, that they put those words in there because they want you to think hierarchical. They don't want you to realize, like Matthew 10 verses 42 through 45, where Jesus says we're not going to have a hierarchy like the Gentile heathen. And that's what they asked for back in 1 Samuel chapter 8 and 1 Samuel chapter 12. God thunders from heaven to show that it was wrong for them to ask for a different king besides God. Walter Schellenberg, former chief of Nazi counter-espionage, made this statement. The SS organization had been constituted by Himmler according to the principles of the Jesuit order, the regulations and the spiritual exercises prescribed by Ignatius of Loyola were the model Himmler tried to copy exactly. Himmler's title as Supreme Chief of the SS was to be the equivalent of the Jesuits' general, and the whole structure was a close imitation of the Catholic Church's hierarchical order. Franz von Papen, another powerful Nazi, who was instrumental in setting up the Concordat between Germany and the Vatican, had this to say, the Third Reich is the first world power which not only acknowledges but also puts into practice the high principles of the papacy. If you're not aware of what a Concordat is an agreement between the Vatican and a government. As far as the Vatican is concerned, that government that signed the Concordat has now become a part of the government of God, and the Vatican fully intends to stabilize that government, give it divine protection, and give it international protection. And that's the significance behind Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco signing the Concordat and entering Vatican's divine protection. So now they're under God's protection, and the Vatican will help them internationally and whatever. And that's why they did the cover-up, like I talked about in the video before this, during World War II, and made a lot of propaganda and everything. So it says the three big defenders of the Roman Catholic faith were Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco. All three had concordats with the Vatican. When the Nazi war machine swept through the Balkans on the way to attack Russia, Yugoslavia had become a Nazi-occupied country. The Pope despised the Russian Orthodox members. They were called Serbians, and they were marked for death in Yugoslavia. They were given one choice, to convert to Catholicism or die. Why were they killed? Why did the Pope have such a vendetta against the Russian Orthodox? As he said in our Crusaders book, The Godfathers, or as we said in our Crusaders book, The Godfathers, the Communist Party was created by the Vatican to destroy one of her greatest enemies, the Russian Orthodox Church. the communists had double-crossed the Pope and refused to destroy the Russian Orthodox Church members, and at last Pope Pius XII had created a machine to do what the communists had failed to do: butcher every Orthodox Church member and their clergy. Let's see how this was accomplished. And now, if you look, you'll see like they were going through a rampage, killing people, cutting off their heads, sawing off their heads, ripping open pregnant women, cutting people's heads off, starving people in death camps. It says, the Catholic priests changed their robes for the uniforms of the dreaded Ustachi killer squads and led the most barbaric, brutal raids upon those people and practiced satanic torture never before known in this century. We are not talking about 800 years ago. We are talking about 1940. I was in high school then. The whore of Revelation showed her fangs, tore her enemies to shreds, and cleverly covered up her crimes. All this is documented in many books, including Catholic Terror Today by Avro Manhattan. The book the following quotes were taken from. The non-Catholic population of Catholic Croatia, that's Yugoslavia, were given two basic alternatives: conversion or death. Their church buildings were closed, parish documents destroyed, ecclesiastical buildings burned down. Orthodox worshippers very often were arrested inside their own churches and kept there or in local halls while awaiting their fate. Forced conversion, concentration camps, or execution. Their survival more often than not depended upon the whim of the Ustachi commandants and of the Catholic padres, priests, accompanying them. And it shows the different meetings the German leaders had with the different Catholic orders. So that's what that picture's about. Get this book, Smoke Screens by Jack Chick. It'll teach you a lot. Mass murders were supplanted by the massacre of individuals, mostly in rural districts. The Ustachi very often used the most primitive weapons, such as forks, spades, hammers, and saws, to torture their victims prior to the executions. They broke their legs, pulled off their skin and beards, blinded them by cutting their eyes with knives, and even tearing them from their sockets. This information is documented by pictures and by the sworn testimony of survivors. They did not spare women and children. To quote only one instance, in the villages between Lesenica and Kladen, the Nazi occupational troops discovered children who had been impaled upon stakes by the Ustachi, their little members distorted with pain. Catholic priests advocated the killing of children. A Catholic priest named Jurek said, "Today it is no longer a sin to kill a child of 7, should such a child be opposed to our movement of the Ustachi." The worst atrocities, actually I'm going to run out of time, so I'll stop there for now. So, alright, thanks for watching. See y'all in the next video. Bye.